In this video, we're going to tell you what a barbarian is, how they fit in a party, and why your next character should be a raging barbarian.
Welcome to the Fantasy Fellows.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Sean.
And we've been friends for over 20 years.
Today we're going to go over why you should choose a barbarian as your next class. We'll talk about what they are, some of their core mechanics, and how to roll up your level 1 character.
Make sure to stick around to the end to see our bonus for this video. 3 unlikely backstories that we think will make uniquely fun barbarians to play.
So what is a barbarian? He's a fighter, and he's a fighter that is defined by their rage. Usually their personality revolves around how they interact with their emotions. If they're scared of them, if they run from them, or do they embrace them and thrive with them.
They tend to be straightforward, relying more on strength and intimidation than deception and subtlety. If a situation becomes too complicated, they are more than happy to simplify the matter by drawing a blade.
When it comes to fighting, rage is their main tool. It's their multi-purpose hammer, and they're going to use it for every problem, every encounter, and every character.
A barbarian's fighting style is instinctive, almost animalistic. While rogues rely on finesse, barbarians use their athleticism and their toughness to get in close and overpower their enemies.
Popular modern examples of the barbarian would be Wolverine, the Hulk, Khal Drogo, and Drax. Now, clearly they all have different backstories and characters, but when it comes right down to it, when they encounter a problem, they're just going to run straight at it, ignore anything that comes at them, and beat it with their fists. Now that we know what a barbarian is, here is why you should play one.
Barbarians are one of the most simple classes in Dungeons & Dragons, which makes them a great option for new players. Their combat is simple, fun, and forgiving. Essentially, you get to run straight at your enemies, taking blows so that your friends don't have to, and once you reach your enemies, you can unleash your rage upon them. Because their combat is so simple, you get to focus more on other aspects of Dungeons & Dragons, such as role-playing, exploration, and just generally engaging with the world around you.
The barbarian also allows for simplified roleplay if that's what you're seeking. They're generally quiet and stoic, and you're not going to be expected to sing, to dance, or to give an emotional acting sequence when you're revealing part of your backstory. So that really can take a load off your shoulders as a new player.
Now that we've talked about why you should play a barbarian, let's talk a little bit about a barbarian's role in an adventuring party, as well as some of the core mechanics. A barbarian typically fills 2 main roles in an adventuring party, and that is a tank and a damage dealer. Tanks are the characters that run to the front of battle and take hits from enemies, so that the weaker classes in the back, such as wizards and rangers, don't have to, and they can focus on their damage output. A barbarian is also a pretty formidable damage dealer in and of themselves, and some of their core mechanics lend themselves really well to both of these party roles. Finally, they have a D12 hit die, which is a little bit granular, but what it really means is that unless you have special items or special abilities for the other classes, you're going to have the highest amount of hit points in the game. Alright, quick disclaimer. We're about to get into the core mechanics of low-level barbarians to give you a better understanding of the kinds of options you'll have while playing a barbarian. We'll keep it relatively high level, but we will include screenshots of the details of the rules. So if you want, go ahead and give it a pause and dive into those details.
The core mechanic of the barbarian is their ability to rage, which is basically you losing your temper and going into berserk fury. During this time, you're stronger, you're more athletic. When you're hit, the damage is halved, and your ability to hit your enemies is increased. You just have to be careful because you have a limited number of times you can do this per day.
Another ability you get at first level is Unarmored Defense. This is a passive ability that affects your armor class. Armor class is essentially how challenging it is for enemies to hit you. The higher the armor class, the harder it is for an enemy to hit you. Instead of having to put on bulky chainmail or plate armor, a barbarian can use their natural strength and athleticism to dodge and weather blows from their enemies.
At second level, you get Reckless Attack, and this is basically throwing caution to the wind and making an all-out strike on your enemy. You'll be more likely to hit them, but unfortunately they'll be more likely to hit you as well.
While building a character and choosing your race, one of the most important things to think about is what are those primary stats that you care about.
We recommend you putting their 2 highest ability scores into Strength and Constitution. With Strength, you'll be able to hit harder and hit more often, and then with Constitution, you'll be more resistant to damage and fatigue.
With that in mind, the Half-Orc is a fantastic option for a Barbarian. Half-Orcs get +2 to Strength and +1 to Constitution, which is already a fantastic start. There are also 2 abilities that Half-Orcs have that are particularly relevant. The first is Relentless Endurance. What this does is, once per day, if you are about to be reduced to 0 hit points, you can use the strength within you to persevere and instead only be knocked down to 1 hit point. This is essentially a second life or a second wind, and can be really useful in a tight pinch. The second ability is Savage Attacks. What this does is when you score a critical strike, you get to deal additional damage, really upping your damage output.
Another good option is the Mountain Dwarf. You'll get a +2 to Strength, a +2 to Constitution, and you'll be resistant to poison damage.
Another fantastic option for the race of your Barbarian is the Variance Human. This is a bit of a cop-out because, frankly, Variance Human is a pretty good selection for almost any class, Barbarian or otherwise. And that's because they're highly flexible and customizable. You get to pick 2 abilities of your choice and add +1 to them. So you can add +1 to Strength and +1 to Constitution. Already pretty good for a Barbarian. Next, you get to add a proficiency of your choice to any skill. So if you want to add that to Athletics, Acrobatics, Deception, Intimidation, Nature, anything that you want your Barbarian to be better in, you can do that. Finally, you get to pick up a feat. A feat is something that we won't go into detail on in this video because it's a whole expansive subject, but essentially they're little things that you get to add to your character that add some flavor and add some power to your character, and they really allow you to customize your Barbarian to be the exact kind of fighter that you want your Barbarian to be. This is a really great option, but there's a lot of additional complexity. So if you're looking for a simple character to create, we recommend staying away from the Variant Human.
Throughout this video, we have set up some classic ways to think about, role play, and create your Barbarian, but really do whatever you think is most fun. That's what D&D is all about.
For the bonus portion of this video, we've created a few example backstories based off of the backgrounds in the player's handbook. We hope these backstories help give you some inspiration for creating unique Barbarians in your game.
Our first suggestion takes inspiration from the criminal spy background. So in this, your character started off as being the muscle for hire in a crime syndicate, but really he didn't enjoy hurting people, and when he fell into bouts of rage during the enterprises, it was something that really took a toll on him. So he left and went on his own to adventure and find his own way.
Our next example Barbarian is based on the entertainer background. This Barbarian was a strong woman in a traveling circus that is horrified of fire. This is due to an unfortunate accident that was caused by a bottle of spirits and twin fire spitters in the circus. She wears leather gloves at all times to cover her horrific burn scars, and her favorite weapon is a maul because of how she used it in her circus act.
Our third and final suggestion comes from the noble background. You were born the son of a duke, but were exiled after a drunken escapade at one of your father's parties. After that, you found yourself joining a mercenary group where you used your education and leadership to rise through the ranks. It's there that you found a place where you could really survive and thrive and find a lifestyle that fitted you.
Do you have any questions about Barbarians or interesting stories about your Barbarian? Let us know in the comment section.
Thanks again for watching the video. If you liked it, hit the subscribe button, and please remember to leave a comment below.
Thanks, and may all your rolls be 20s.